getting notices or complaints. I think complaints have started with the first arbitrary changes, and these are not adjustments or transitions. These are political decisions to minimize the impact leading up to an election, and it's changing a law in a way that you are not allowed to do.
I don't believe this is lawless. I certainly don't believe we're in a banana republic. But
sorry, we're breaking protocol here. That's all right. That's a good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want.
But I do think this is why the president's approval ratings are below 40%, while only 12% of the public has any faith in Congress, and while less than 20% of the public has any faith in government.
So
this is the kind of incompetence, at the very least, the kind of incompetence that really turns the public
It's
off.
not incompetence. It's willful breaking of the constitutional order. Where in the Constitution is the president allowed to alter a law 27 times after it's been passed?
I think they would argue, and I'm not a constitutional attorney and certainly not a doctor, don't hold a doctorate, but I think they would argue this is a tax, which is ironic. They're arguing now it's a tax. And under a tax, the Treasury Secretary has wide authority to be able to amend regulations.
Yeah, in order to better implement it, but not in order to ease the political pain.
To be continued.
Oh, yes.
To be continued.
Fair enough, so that way I agree with it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's it for the panel.
Sounding the alarm, Lindsey Graham said the following, quote, "I believe that if we get Syria wrong within 6 months, and you can quote me on this, there will be a war between Iran and Israel over their nuclear program. My fear is that it won't come to America on top of a missile. It'll come in the belly of a ship in the Charleston or New York harbor."
A shakeup at the highest levels of the U.S. military. A top general in charge of nuclear weapons fired, and this comes 48 hours after another top military commander was dismissed.
Diane, these officers have some of the highest security clearances you can get and have been in charge of the nation's most sensitive nuclear arsenals.
A stunning chain of events. Today, Michael Carey, the two-star general responsible for the nation's 3 intercontinental ballistic missile wings, fired from his command. The reason? Personal misbehavior on a military business trip. This comes just 48 hours after President Obama himself relieved the number 2 in command over the nation's nuclear arsenal over his suspected use of counterfeit poker chips. These follow an alarming string of general officers losing their jobs this year for inappropriate behavior, misconduct, or lack of leadership. 2 Marine Corps generals fired less than 2 weeks ago for not providing proper force protection in Afghanistan. An Army brigadier general relieved of duty for adultery. An Army 2-star general fired for groping a civilian.
At least 16 commanders have been fired this year. The bad news is how much this is happening.
But that same day beforehand, we leaked the intel specifically stating that the nuclear warheads were moving from Texas to South Carolina. To add matters to that and make it even more extreme, not only, yes, do we have the second commander being fired, but the first commander being fired, and it later came out through these leaked emails, if you look at the Daily Mail piece, that the second in command was fired on the same day of the nuclear warheads transfer that we reported on. The exact same day, but that came out weeks later. So we couldn't have known that. The intel was right, 100%. We knew that. But this also goes into this new thing. This is breaking news here, exclusive. The guy that's firing all these people, the head guy, his name is Kowalski. He made a statement in this Department of Defense online website here in an interview, and he actually said, nuclear weapons are strategic weapons. They're political weapons. So they're not just weapons of war. He went on to talk about, we have all these 2,000-pound bombs and everything. That's what master sergeants talk about. But once you get to the level of senator and secretary of defense, they talk about nuclear weapons. He's saying that nuclear weapons aren't actually weapons of war anymore. They're political strategic weapons. That to me sounds like he's saying he's holding the country hostage, as we talked about before. This is the guy in charge firing all these generals who wouldn't go along with him. They're replacing the real experienced people with this guy, Jack Weinstein, who will go along and play ball. It's definitely obvious these older generals were either whistleblowers, they weren't going to go along with the plan. And it seems to me that basically he's saying that, nuclear weapons are not for war, they're political and strategic weapons. Sounds to me like they wanted to launch a false flag attack as a pretext to war in Syria and Iran, as Graham was their little playboy to go out and say it, and then these guys would not go along with it.
it's the general to you, or you could call me President 1, not 3 or 2. And you probably heard a lot of silly stories about me, but let me lay it down how raw I really used to be. I got a hemp operation back at the plantation, selling the stickiest shit around the new nation. So come run and find me if you wanna get high, cause honestly I got the bombest, I cannot tell a lie. Pick it dry, of course I'm gonna try, bag it up and break it and then just let them buy it. And if the Brits wanna come and take a piece of the cut, I'll raise a whole fucking army, let them see what's what. The king's like, yo, I gotta get paid. I'm like, tough titty, cause y'all's a whole ocean away. And you can try to send some ships to come and make me pay up, but that's an awful long way just to suck these nuts. You get my fucking message, son? Take it, Thomas Jefferson. Sell drugs, run guns, nail sluts, and fuck the law. We're founding fathers, we're Rushmore shit, and we were all high as balls. The Declaration of Independence I wrote so high, I'm surprised it makes sense, but we find these truths to be self-evident. It goes puff, puff, pass, the next round you get skipped.
Abe Lincoln, I know what you're thinking. Greatest president ever, I'll have what he's drinking. Yeah, well see, that's where you be wrong, cause if you wanna chill with me, you better go and grab that bomb. Or an apple or a can, see you do not understand. Faded 24/7, cause that's just the way I am. I can see you're having a little trouble believing me, then check this letter that I wrote, recorded down in history. Ahem. 2 of my favorite things are sitting on my porch, and smoking a pipe of that sweet hemp, of course. That's a quote that I wrote while I was still in office, but enough of that, I am too high, I have to back up off this. Where's my horse? I think I need to go and ride him home. I was supposed to leave about 420 rips ago. You see my hat? I like it. I kinda think it looks like a stove. Scratch it, pass it one more time, and let me hit it for the road.
Sell drugs, run guns, nail sluts, and fuck the law. We're founding fathers, we're Rushmore shit, and we were all high as balls. And don't let them try and tell you we grew with just a rope. You can check what we wrote down in our harvest notes. We separated seeds that we found more potent. In layman's terms, we were into getting bent. Smoking out the Continental Congress, everybody's bitches be like all up on us. Patrick Henry's in the corner looking pretty well spent. Ben Franklin got so high he forgot to be president. Your girl just said she never had it hit so good. Smoked so many trees that my fucking teeth turn wood. And if they make a monument to me when I die, it'll be a giant abstract joint up in the sky. But you know they're gonna whitewash me, make up some corny shit about me chopping cherry trees. It's hard to control a people if they're found as a thug, so they'll just teach that I was all prayers, puppies, and hugs. But that just ain't the way it was. We set this whole place up with a hell of a buzz. So next time they try and tell you that this stuff is wrong, look at a dollar, light a blunt, fucking sing my song. Sell drugs, run guns, nail sluts, and fuck the law. We're founding fathers, we're Rushmore shit, and we were all high as balls. The Declaration of Independence I wrote so high, I'm surprised it makes sense, but we find these truths to be self-evident. It goes puff, puff, pass, the next round you get skipped. We're the founders, and we found this, and we founded this on cannabis. We're the founders, and we found this, and we founded this on cannabis. Mount Rushmore crew, stone monument to some monumental stoners. G. Washington, T. Jefferson, and A. Lincoln. And fuck that other guy. Calvin Coolidge, whoever the fuck. We history.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am trying to reconcile how Benghazi was not safe enough for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to go, but it was safe enough to leave a below-spec facility for our diplomats to stay in. I'm just trying to reconcile those 2 points. It's too dangerous for the Bureau, who are trained law enforcement officials, but it's just fine for diplomats. At some point, I'll reconcile that. Let me do this, Mr. Hicks. I'm going to dust off something called the best evidence rule. The best evidence of what you said when you were asked about Mr. Chaffetz's visit is actually what you said. So here it is. Those instructions were to arrange the visit in such a way that Representative Chaffetz and his staff would not have the opportunity to interview myself, John Martinic, and David McFarland alone. That's what you said in a deposition. So there shouldn't be any ambiguity about who said what when. That's your testimony. Now, I'd like to try to weave this tapestry together because this is the last opportunity I have certainly today to talk to you. If I understand your testimony correctly, Mr. Hicks, and I want to be fair about it, so if I mischaracterize anything, you need to correct me. If I understand your testimony in part, the ambassador was interested in going to Benghazi because of interest that Secretary Clinton had in Benghazi. Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right. Now, Mr. Nordstrom, same thing to you. And if I'm unfair in my characterization, you need to correct me. I thought I understood your testimony to be that Secretary Clinton alone was able to approve facilities that were below specs.
That's correct. Part of the specs. There's two categories, SECA and OSPB. She is the only one that can authorize waivers for SECA. In this case, both apply because we didn't meet either.
So we are able to show that in part he went to Benghazi because of Secretary Clinton. In part, Benghazi was still open despite the fact it was below specs because of Secretary Clinton. And now to my third point, to complete the circle, who is Cheryl Mills?
Counselor and Chief of Staff to the Secretary.
And she was copied on that email that I know my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are going to have a press conference on as soon as we get out of here, calling on the State Department to release this email. I know it, because I have heard all afternoon about denying access to documents, and they do not want to deny the public or the media access to this document. So I know they're going to call on the State Department to release this non-classified email, which Cheryl Mills was copied on, which demonstrably undercuts Susan Rice's talking points. And Cheryl Mills was copied on that email.
Mr. Gotti, if I could add, Cheryl Mills was also the person that led our preparation for our October testimony. I'd never met her before, but that was explained to me who she was afterwards.
And apparently, she was also less than pleased with Mr. Chaffetz's visit to Libya, if I understood that testimony correctly, which I find stunning. He's a subcommittee chairman on oversight, one of the more decent human beings I've ever met. I've never known him to inspire that strong of emotion in anyone other than Ms. Mills. Let me say this to you, Ambassador, in conclusion. You have made a compelling case today for why it is important to tell other countries the truth. You made a compelling case that the decision not to tell the truth on Sunday morning talk shows adversely impacted our ability to get to Benghazi. You made a compelling case. All three of you have made a compelling case today on why it is important for government to tell the truth to its own citizens. So you made the case why we have to tell the truth to other countries, and you made the case on why you have to tell the truth to your own citizens. So if anyone wants to know what difference does it make, if anyone wants to ask what difference does it make, it always matters whether or not you can trust your government. And to the families, we're going to find out what happened in Benghazi, and I don't give a damn whose career is impacted. We're going to find out what happened. And with that, I would yield back.
We have a special treat for you today. Our next speaker served as a prosecutor, district attorney, and judge. Today, she's a highly respected legal analyst and host of the Emmy Award-winning program, Justice with Judge Janine. And earlier this year, when a newspaper in New York decided to publish the names and addresses of law-abiding gun owners, let's just say she didn't take too kindly to it. Take a look at this.
We knew publication of the database would be controversial, but we felt sharing as much information as we could about gun ownership in our area was important in the aftermath of the Newtown shootings. Really? Are you serious? That's not enough. One person, the editor and vice president of the Journal News, Cindy Royal, who repeatedly called me when I was the district attorney, answered tersely, "Sorry, can't do that." And that would be why? And in the ultimate hypocritical move, the Journal News looks to people with guns to protect them from the very danger that they've created. Might you have been hoisted on your own petard? Now that you're under the microscope, you look like a deer in the headlights. You're looking pretty weak right now. And my sources tell me you're scared. You're disconnecting your